New 2021 income requirements for sponsoring your spouse and an update on the immigration reform, aka amnesty, for immigrants and more. In today's video, I'll explain how these will impact your immigration goals. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, I'm Mejer. I'm an immigration attorney and an immigrant. My office works with people trying to get legal status. Our office is based in New Jersey, but we can help you anywhere in the world with your US immigration issue. If you get value from this video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for those watching on YouTube for any notifications. If you haven't heard my story, I came to the US from Chile as a child. I didn't speak English and for a long time, I didn't have legal status. I know what it's like to live in fear of being deported, and even after I got my green card, because I didn't understand the immigration system, I almost lost it. That's why I do these videos. I want you to understand the immigration system. I want you to get the legal status you want as soon as you possibly can, and I don't want you to lose it. If you know of other immigrants who would benefit from the knowledge I share, please share my videos with them. We have lots to talk about today. Drop a comment below to let me know which is most important to you to know more about, and if we can, I'll talk about that in an upcoming video. Before we get to the immigration reform, I wanted to mention some important updates to policy for immigrants in the US. A few videos ago, I talked about how the Democrats might be able to use the reconciliation bill to get some immigration laws passed. I'll link to that video below. The reason this is important is that the reconciliation bills only require 51 votes in the Senate rather than the 60 required for most bills. If you remember, we now have 51 Democratic votes with Vice President Harris in the Senate voting to break any ties, because there's only 100 in total, 100 senators. Reconciliation bills are specific for the budget and are usually one or two voted on each session. This year, as of the beginning of April, there were 3 reconciliation bills voted on, and they've already passed one. Now there will be 2 more. With the new decisions from the parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, Democrats can now do a 3rd budget reconciliation bill, which means they can push through a more ambitious members as long as they are related to tax and spending. So that's the big thing to remember. Anything they put the rule and vote on must be related to taxing and spending. There is a possibility that some immigration measures could also be related to tax and spending. So it will be interesting to see if some of the leaders who are saying they want to help advance immigration reform take advantage of this to do so. Another change you should know about is that USCIS has now said they will not reject forms if you leave spaces blank. I've talked about this before. During the Trump administration, a new policy was put in place, and we were seeing applicants that were being denied due to blank spaces. What you needed to do was write N\A on any spaces that weren't applicable rather than just leaving them blank. However, USCIS said they would no longer follow this policy for certain forms, I-589 for asylum, and I-612, and an I-918. Frankly, I would still write in NA for any space that don't apply to you. It's just, things we've always done. It was the policy of our office to do that for applications we submitted for clients, and we will continue to do that. Better to be safe than sorry, right? USCIS can still reject your application if you don't answer all the questions that you should, or if you leave out important information. Okay, back to immigration reform. Senator Durbin, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee and a Democrat, sat down on March 24, 2021 with Republicans and Democrats to discuss Biden's U.S. Citizenship Act. Not much happened in that meeting, except that the Republicans said they would need to see better border security and action at the border before they were willing to vote on any immigration reform. Let's chat about this a minute. Should immigration reform hinge on how we are dealing with our borders? If you watched any of my videos in the past, I've talked about the need for immigration reform and better border protection. So I think they are both really important, but I don't agree that if we don't get our borders dealt with in a way that Republicans like, then we shouldn't have any kind of immigration reform. I know this happens a lot in politics. They say, if you give me X, I'll vote for your bill. I hope the Democrats can come up with a way to separate that, because I don't think we are going to have a solution for the border for a long time. And we really, really need immigration reform. Saying that, it made me think of something that could be included in the reconciliation bill. Get more money to the Department of State and USCIS for workers to get applications processed more quickly and clear out the backlogs. That definitely would be a taxing and spending issue, but who knows? You've probably heard that Vice President Harris was appointed to handling the immigration crisis at the border. What do I think about that? Someone in her inner circle said the problem cannot be solved by one person in 4 years or 8 years, as has been proved by the litany of the past failures by people of goodwill and talent. But that's not bad for her necessarily, because any improvement of the status quo will be a win. Vice President Harris was one of the co-sponsors of the DREAM Act in 2017, so immigration has been something she has focused on in her career as a senator. At the end of President Obama's tenure, President Biden was also handed the same. President Biden today he was Vice President Biden under Obama. He was handed the same responsibility, handling immigration issues at the border. The current administration has said that there will need to be funding to help solve immigration issues overall as well. It will be interesting how Vice President Harris handles this very big role that she's been given. USCIS announced that they have once again extended the time to reply to certain information requests due to COVID. This is kind of old news because these extensions started back in March 2020. Usually when you get something like a request for evidence, which gives you 84 days to respond, or a notice of intent to deny, which gives you about 30 to 33 days to respond, because of the pandemic and the fact that when you need to gather requested information from some agency could be closed, USCIS has increased the requirement response time to an additional 60 days. So if you got 30 days, you have 30 plus 60. If you have 84, it's 84 plus 60. Do I think you should wait that long to respond? No, I don't. Anytime you get a request like that, the processing of your application stops until the issue is resolved. So if you have the information, I recommend you respond as quickly as possible. But it is nice for people who are maybe requesting documents from another country to know that they do have a little more time to send an answer in. Either way, don't wait. Make sure you move on it right away, because there's a recognition that things are taking time. Keep in mind that this only applies to requests from USCIS that are dated from March 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. This has been extended several times, so it may be extended again. If it does, we'll be sure to let you know right here. So please like and follow, subscribe to our channel so you are notified when we post new videos on immigration. Changes in income requirement guidelines for sponsoring family. Every year, there are new poverty guidelines put in place by HHS, that's Health and Human Services. Who needs to know this, and why do you need to know this for immigration? If you're applying to sponsor someone to immigrate as a family member, such as your spouse, your parent, or your child, you must file an affidavit of support known as Form I-864. This form requires that you have or make enough money to financially support the immigrant and yourself and your own family, so that the immigrant does not need to request public benefits from the US government. Now, if the immigrant applies and receives the benefits, the government can force you to pay back the cost of those benefits. The sponsor is the person who filed an immigration petition for the intending immigrant. Other terms that you may be familiar with are petitioner and beneficiary. You, the US citizen, the lawful permanent resident, are the petitioner, and the immigrant is the beneficiary, or the one who's gonna benefit from the application you made. So let's talk about the poverty guidelines that USCIS will use to determine if you qualify to sponsor someone. If you are in Alaska or Hawaii, the amounts are different, so you'll need to review the amounts for those states if that is where you live. If you are in the armed forces, you need to earn 100% of the HHS poverty guidelines. If you are not in the armed forces, you need to earn 125% of the HHS poverty guidelines. Now, we will link to the table with the amounts you must earn based on how many dependents will be in your household, including the immigrant, in the comments below. The math can be complicated depending on who lives in your household. If you need help with this, I recommend you speak to a qualified immigration attorney. If you don't make enough money, there are options like getting a joint sponsor, and you can also count ownership of your belongings like assets and income from other adults in your household, depending on who you're applying for. I did a tip of the week explaining this a few months ago, and we'll link to that here. But again, if you have questions, speak with an immigration attorney. It would be disappointing to be denied for an issue when it could have been fixed before you even applied. Now, generally speaking, for a household of two, you need income of just under $22,000. And for each additional family member, you need to have additional income of $5,600 and change. So it changed by a couple of $100 from last year, but it really depends on the number of households. Now, our office doesn't handle many work-related visas, not because we can't. It's just a lot of our clients are in the US, undocumented, and for that reason don't qualify. So as a percentage of our business, much more of what we do is dealing with family and humanitarian issues, removal defense issues rather than employment, but we do that as well. We do a lot of family-based petitions. We do a fair amount of removal case. But I wanted to let you know that the Labor Department is seeking input on prevailing wages for H-1Bs. When someone applies for an H-1B, that is an employer-sponsored visa, the employer must show that the prevailing wage will be paid to the employee. So they can't get foreign workers to save money. Salary rates for specific visas are tightly regulated. Previously, the Trump administration has sought to revise mandatory salaries. This change was supposed to go into effect March 9, 2021, but has since been delayed by the Biden administration until December 31st, 2021. This public comment period, which has to happen for any changes to federal law, which immigration is due to that. Now, every year since 2014, the H-1B category is filled in with applications within just a few days of the lottery period opening. This year was no exception. If you want to apply for a visa through the H-1 program, we recommend you start early and be ready when it opens to get your name in the pool. There are 8 other ways to get a visa legal status, and if you'd like to find out if you qualify for one of those, please contact our office. We are happy to review your situation and determine the best path for your immigration journey. Let's talk about Presidential Proclamation 10,052. That's 10052. If you recall, this proclamation suspended the entries of H-1B, H-2B, J and L visa holders. It did not bar people from getting a visa, but did keep them from entering the US. This proclamation has now expired. It was set to expire March 31st, 2021, and President Biden allowed this to expire rather than extending it. If someone was approved for this visa and needs an interview for this visa, that still needs to take place. All of those who were scheduled for the interviews but didn't have one are supposed to be prioritized at their local embassy. If you were previously refused entry due to this proclamation, you will need to reapply and submit a new fee. This seems unfair that you lost that fee that you paid, but it is what it is. Thank you to everyone who watched, likes, and comments on our videos. One of the reasons I became an attorney was to help other people. If you need help with your immigration case, call us. We can't help everyone who contacts us, but if we can't help you, we won't take your money. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, and be well.